And welcome back, folks, to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. Last time we played, well, we made it to 1500 hours. And I think there's two characters we haven't played as. We played as Minorikawa, we played as Osawa, and I think we're stuck on Maria. So, who dost we play as? Aki? Kano? Or do we see what's going on with Maria? Oh, I did not want to select Maria, but... Democracy is dead. Just choose a character, you bunch of knuckleheads. Kano. Okay, I didn't see it. Calm down. So Sasayama got stabbed. Kano practically dived from the car when it arrived on the scene in Maruyamacho. The place was teeming with officers and onlookers alike. Out of the way, please, move aside. Kano forced his way through the throng. A throng? That's true, I used that sound effect. Let's add them together. A throng is 250 to 500 units. Sasayama was lying in a massive pool of blood. Sasayama! It got me. Right in my can of tomato soup, he winks at the camera. Kano rushed to his partner's side. The knife was still embedded deep in Sasayama's belly. Its handle shuddered each time he drew a labored breath. Guess I messed up. Guess I won't be able to retire on my boat called Live Forever. Sasayama could only manage a raspy murmur. Please don't try to talk, Kano urged. Looks like I won't be celebrating the missus's birthday. Sasayama drew a small package from his pocket. No! It had been neatly wrapped and fitted with a pretty little ribbon. Here, give this to me-chan for me. Kano shook his head. No way. Give it yourself. Oh. It's like I wrote this. You've never met me-chan, huh? She's real pretty. Probably surprised how pretty she... I know. You've told me all about her. Kano, please, give this to my wife for me. Mustering the last of his strength, Sasayama pressed the gift into Kano's hand. Sasayama? Sasayama's hand dropped back down to the puddle of blood. A paramedic team finally arrived at the scene. As Sasayama was loaded into the ambulance, Kano felt a surge of rage roiling inside him. Clenching his fists so hard his nails dug into his palm, he marched over to the captive Al-Karawan. You son of a bee! He wound up for a punch to Al-Karawan's face, only to have his arm caught forcibly by the elbow. spinning his head around. He found Stanley standing there. "Let go of me, Stanley!" But the American had a grip of steel, and Kano's arm wouldn't budge. "I can't let you do that, Mr. Anderson. They allow you to assault suspects here in Japan, do they?" Kano bit his lip and then lowered his shaking fist. "No, of course not," he growled. Al Karwan let out a nasal chuckle as he watched the pair. With a cold glare, Stanley strolled over to him. He leaned in close to whisper something, and all at once the blood drained from Al Karwan's face. Visibly shaken, Al Karwan said something back to Stanley. Stanley gave a slight nod, then left the captive with the police escort. Kano went over to him. "Hey, what was that all about?" Apparently, Al Karwan gave Hitomi some instructions. Told her to get into a blue minivan that was parked along Dogenzaka. So Stanley's hunch had been correct. But why had Al Karwan confessed so quickly? How'd you get him to talk? You don't need to know that. Turning on his heel, Stanley went to report the news about the blue van to the task force. Kuze immediately directed the detectives nearest Dogenzaka to look into it, but they found no blue minivan in the area. The order then came down for all personnel to search for the vehicle. Kano thought back to another item in the Dick diary. Dick Dictum 14. Use the dead as a stepping stone, but be sure to die a stepping stone yourself. In the abstract, Kano could appreciate the nobility of self-sacrifice. But when he thought of Sasayama's blood-stained figure, it wasn't so easy to keep his emotions in check. First time you ever seen a fellow officer get hurt? Stanley had come back to him. "We don't have time to relax. If you can't keep your anger in, then do something about it, here and now." Stanley pointed to his own jaw. "Hit me. American style." American style? Kano smiled wearily at the unexpected proposal. "No thanks, I'll be fine. Hitting this man wasn't gonna make Kano feel any better. I'm the one who deserves to get hit." Thinking about Sasayama, Kano couldn't help but feel guilty. Without a word, Kano threw a punch. Without a word, Kano threw a punch. Bop. Stanley soaked up the rage-fueled blow, his face a mask of calm. Kano felt all the more miserable in the face of such unflinching resolve. If I weren't such a bumbling clod, Sasayama would have never... "Hey, don't blame yourself," Stanley said. "You guys have been doing better than I expected." "More sarcasm, huh?" Stanley's mouth curled up sheepishly, and he held his hands wide. Kuze's voice suddenly cut in over the wireless. "We've located the blue minivan. It's in Jinan 1 Chome on Kowendori. Hitomi might be there, and maybe the kidnapper's ringleader would turn up too." On pure reflex, Kano broke into a run. Stanley followed close behind. They sped through the back streets, making their way towards Kowendori. Kano was a pretty fast runner, but Stanley kept up with him without apparent difficulty. "Were you in the army or something?" "No, The Marines. Well, what is the Marines? Well, Marines are the United States Marine Corps, a rapid deployment force specializing in amphibious landing operations, an independent branch of the armed forces. Along with the Army, Navy, and Air Force, the Marines' motto is Semper Fidelis, Latin for always faithful. It wasn't much further to Kowandori. Kano, if we find that van, don't get too close, Stanley warned. It could be a trap. These people will do anything to carry out their goals. Anything, huh? Kano could sense the truth of Stanley's words. He reminded himself that his life could depend on remembering them. He raised his eyes. They were coming on Kowandori. Suddenly, a boom as loud as cannon fire shook the area. Something's wrong, Kano thought. That's no ordinary city noise. A column of black smoke rose up from between two nearby buildings. Passersby stopped and stared, gasping in alarm. Oh, shaky cam. It's time for anime. Then Kano saw the flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the detonation. Mr. Minorikawa! Mr. Minorikawa! Minorikawa! A high school-aged girl was crying, clinging tightly to a man who had been caught in the blast. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. The man looked like he still might be alive. Kano hurried over to him. Police, he announced. Blood was streaming from the man's mouth. He has suffered some internal damage. Hang in there, buddy, Kano told him. Stay with us. The man's face twisted up in pain, but somehow he managed to croak up a few words. Kano let out a gasp. The man's voice was almost too weak to hear, but what he said still shook Kano to the core. This man knew something important, something crucial to the investigation. Rescue vehicles arrived on the scene, and the wounded man was promptly loaded into the stretcher. When he was placed inside the ambulance, Kano flashed his badge at the paramedics and got in alongside him. The man had already fallen unconscious. Kano didn't know when he'd wake back up, but he knew he needed to hear what the guy had to say. He sensed that this stranger was the key to unlocking the entire case. But though Kano kept a lonely vigil, the man never woke again. The antiviral that had been given to Hitomi, the blue minivan Al-Karwan told Hitomi to look for. And now the minivan exploding. Kano was sure this man had known how all of these tied together, but now the key to solving the case was gone for good. Minorikawa died? A blown lead. Bada bing. Well, the only one we haven't touched yet is Aki. Kanan led them into a narrow back alley. Oh, what's a back alley? Members of SOS don't come by here very much. Word has it that in this place, around 10 years ago, one man beat the crap out of 7 street toughs in the blink of an eye, all by himself. Over time, people have offered various theories that he was an assassin, that he was some foreign soldier, that he might have been a ghost, and to this day, the urban legend lives on. The moment she stopped, Hitomi spoke up. Why was my sister kidnapped? Before I answer that, there's something I need to tell you, Kanan said. Her tone was cold and sharp. I've come to Japan because I'm on a mission. I'm not at liberty to discuss all the details. All right. Hitomi gave a slight nod. To answer your question, Maria was kidnapped by mistake. What? Hitomi gasped. But why? Because this kidnapper isn't after Maria. They're after you. Who's after me? The mastermind behind this whole thing, Kanan said. Her tone was matter-of-fact. Whoa, hold on! Aki interrupted. What do they want Hitomi for? That I cannot say. Well then, who is this person? I can't tell you that either. You see, their sex, nationality, age, appearance. Just about everything about them is shrouded in mystery. So, there's honestly not much I can tell you. Aki and Hitomi stood dumbfounded. What gives? So you're saying all you know is that this person has some lame name like Mastermind? Hitomi turned to whisper in his ear. Mastermind isn't actually their name. Mastermind, originally used to refer to someone of remarkable intellect, the term first took on its criminal connotations in the 19th century. I'm here, Kanan spat, because I'm looking for revenge. Revenge? Hitomi asked. What for? This person also killed my friend. Kanan's unscrutable eyes flashed with a threatening gleam. Earlier, you said that it was your fault my sister got kidnapped, Hitomi said. Kanan cast her eyes down. 4 days ago, I managed to learn this criminal's plan. So I got in touch with Maria and told her that you were going to be attacked at that party. So that's why she told me not to go. Hitomi's voice trembled as she spoke. I gave Maria a small GPS tracker to give you. I guess you never got it? What is a GPS? Well, a GPS is a global positioning system, a network of man-made satellites and ground-based control stations for providing geolocation data. Alternatively, a device that makes use of said system. Modern cell phones and vehicle navigation systems use the GPS. Oh, little video. Let's look at that. Wow, technology. Hitomi shook her head. I see. She must still have it then. Wait, so then my sister... The color drained from Hitomi's face as she understood. Yes, Kanan replied. Maria acted as a decoy and let herself get kidnapped in your stead. Hitomi swayed on her feet, shocked to the verge of fainting. Aki hurriedly reached out and caught her in his arms. But wait, he said to Kanan as he held Hitomi up. I don't get that either. Why didn't neither of them go? And nobody would have been kidnapped, right? I mean, why did her sister need to go and act as a decoy? Kanan let out a tiny sigh. If she hadn't gone to the party, the kidnappers would have just found some other opportunity to come after her. Ah, okay. Aki nodded. That sort of makes sense. I'm betting that Maria's plan was to use the GPS to lead me to these guys' hideout. She wanted to keep her sister safe, and also figured she could help me with my mission. This is the sort of scheme she'd think of. So, can't she use the GPS to locate Hitomi's sister? Kanan shook her head. The GPS hasn't been powered on since she was kidnapped. It's possible the kidnappers took it from her. Wait, what? So after all of that, even you can't find Maria? Aki slumped his shoulders in disappointment. I didn't say that. What do you mean? I got some intel from those syndicate members we met earlier. Apparently, sometime this morning, they put Maria into a blue minivan. And since then, they've been moving her around all around Shibuya. Aki and Hitomi exchanged glances at the mention of the blue minivan. Unfortunately, Kanan continued, those operatives didn't know what the current situation was exactly. So we're back to the blue van then. Aki hurriedly explained what they've been through so far. He mentioned how they first seen the blue van and where the kidnappers had told Hitomi where to find it. He also described how first the man with the cane, then a host of others had come after them. He got a little sidetracked here and there, but Kanan quietly listened to the end. I see, she muttered. So then, what do you think? Aki asked. It seems we messed up their scheme a little, huh? Whatever the case, this man with the cane concerns me, Kanan said. I doubt he's working with the others. I don't know what that means. Hey, that's it. Some guy who isn't involved butts in and it throws off their whole plan. Kanan nodded in agreement. Because you and that man with the cane showed up. They couldn't leave the minivan where it was. They took a sensible precaution. But then, if you think about it, isn't this an opportunity for us to turn the tables on Mr. Mastermind? Kanan flashed him a faint, speculative smile. I wonder about that. Oh, come on, Aki grumbled. You're such a buzzkill. Any well-made plan has a good, solid outline, which means that even after it has come to fruition, it's easy to trace things back to the planner. Is that how it works? By contrast, if you achieve your goals using accidental means, the outline becomes blurred, and it makes it harder for anyone outside looking in to grasp what the actual plan is. Aki swallowed hard as he took in the gravity of the situation. Well, but I mean, like, if there's an accident, people are sure gonna panic. Plan or not, the corners of Kanan's lips curled up. Typically, I suppose. But the people who are after Hitomi, not only have they put together a perfect plan, they purposefully left certain tiny holes in it. And so we can't even figure out who they are. The outline of the plan is always too blurry. Aki had no response to that. It was like he was hearing about some completely different world beyond the one he knew. If what Kanan had said was true, he had been dealing with opponents that were on a level way above his own. In any event, since these people are after you, it'd be best if you didn't wander around town anymore, Kanan told him. By now, Hitomi had recovered. She stood up straight and shook her head. No, I'm going to find that blue minivan. My sister is in danger because of me. I can't abandon her just to save myself. Yeah, that's right. Aki patted Hitomi on the back. And if that's what you're gonna do, then I don't care who we're up against. I'm with you in this until the end. Heck, it's too late for me to back out now. That ship has already failed. Hitomi giggled despite herself. It's already sailed, Aki. Yeah. Kanan let out another little sigh. All right, just make sure you're extra careful, she said. You can't count on getting bailed out of trouble like you have before. I understand, Hitomi said. Her eyes showed no trace of doubt or fear. Kanan gave her a slight nod and then quickly disappeared down the alleyway. All right then, Aki said. Want to get back looking for that minivan? And he stopped, remembering their previous efforts. If they just heedlessly wandered around town, they'd probably end up in the same trouble they encountered before. They'd get chased by the man with the cane or by the kidnappers, and their search would be interrupted yet again. What should they do then? There has to be a better way. Aki happened to glance upward and caught sight of a surveillance camera installed on one of the streetlights. That's it. Yeah, I can't believe I didn't think of that before. Hitomi peered at him, startled by his sudden shouting. We just need to use my old man's surveillance cameras, and this'll be a breeze. Aki took Hitomi by the hand and started running. His destination? The security camera monitoring room in Dogenzaka. Aki didn't slow his pace until they were nearing their destination. Then he turned to look back at Hitomi. He was about to ask if she was doing all right when someone close at hand called out to him. Hey, mind if I ask you something? Have you ever heard of SOS? Aki stopped in his tracks as a stranger stepped in front of him. The guy looked too old to be picking a fight with SOS. Aki regarded him with suspicion. Yeah, why do you ask? You happen to be a member yourself? No, not anymore. The man's eyes flashed with a gleam of recognition. Did this guy know who he was? With a broad grin, the stranger took a step closer. Aki's heart sank. He couldn't afford to get caught up in some new hassle right now. Hitomi flashed him a worried look. Let's go. Aki and Hitomi dodged past the man and hurried onward. Even if the guy was harmless, they needed to be on their guard. There was just no telling how many thugs and assassins were looking for Hitomi. Rather than head directly for the surveillance building, Aki decided he'd better make sure the stranger wasn't up to something. Hitomi followed as he slipped quickly into a back alley. There was no indication that the man was following them. What was that guy's deal? Hitomi asked. No idea. But he sure seemed kind of fishy. Doesn't look like he's coming after us, though. They took a quick detour through another seedy back alley. Then, as they were starting to head towards their original destination, Aki felt a sudden searing pain in the back of his back. Oh. Felt a sudden searing pain in his back. Sorry. Glancing over his shoulder, he discovered that one of the foreign syndicate members had crept up and struck him from behind. Oh no! I've been stabbed. Ah! Hitomi screamed. Another man had suddenly appeared, grabbing her by the arms. Hitomi. Aki tried to reach out to her, but his arm was leadened. His body refused to obey his commands. As the attacker wrenched the knife from his back, Aki felt the blood gushing out of his wound. The two men started to drag Hitomi away. Damn it. He tried to pursue them, but his legs faltered. He couldn't find their footing. He was losing blood so fast he was starting to fade from consciousness. Aki could only watch impotently as Hitomi was dragged further and further away. Stab end. Well, I'm gonna assume that Minorikawa talking to them is bad. Sorry, Endo. Sorry, Orai. You're just gonna have to let this one slide. I've got Toyama's life on the line here. Well, we had no prompt to talk to him, so... Well, the waitress only got that far before her face fell. You again? Hey, hurry up and get me a seat. She grinned wickedly. I'm terribly sorry, sir, but we're all full at the moment. He looked around. All the seats were indeed filled. As you can see, sir. Really now? The waitress's grin widened with triumph. Yes, sir. Fine, I'll just right here. Let me get some power. Jamming his power cable into a nearby outlet, Minorikawa plunked himself right down on the floor and booted his laptop. The waitress watched in dismay and turned to stare vacantly at the ceiling. Just do whatever you want, she muttered vaguely. You know, a person can only get away with being obnoxious for so long. Okay, so... Burning hammer guy. We already did this. Already did this. He steals the computer. Stop the downloading. Whoa! Yanagashita honestly deserves some kind of still frame acting reward. He's got that face for it. Okay, so we know he went to the knick-knack shop. Sorry, you'll have to persevere until you're able to win again. It's something you'll need to do yourself, but you were the champion at that one pub, right? Maybe your mistake was thinking that you'd be able to win in an actual for-real fight. Miku began to tremble. Slap. You jerk. And she's running off. Hey there, Golden. How you doing? Don't have time. This discussion? Slap. How do we stop Aki from meeting Minarakawa? No, maybe we already did that. Yeah, because we don't have bad end now. So we don't run into them. It's only a little bit further now. Do you want to walk? It'll be all right. Ah, Aki, look out. Looking ahead, Aki saw that they were bearing down on a young grade school girl. Her head hung in dismay. Aki hurriedly caught the girl up in his arms, took a quick leap to the one side. What do we choose, chat? I mean, it's kind of weird to grab the girl, but... Grabbing the girl? Aki hurriedly caught up the girl in his arms. The maneuver kept her out of harm's way, but the momentum swung her high into the air. She dropped a sheaf of papers she was carrying. As luck would have it, the papers fell amidst the trash scattered alongside the road. Oops, sorry. Aki stopped to gather up the sheets of paper, noting that each was adorned with some sort of writing. Here, looks like they got kind of messed up though. The pages had landed in some kind of spilled liquid. Most of them had gotten stained. It's all right, said the girl. The girl said gloomily. You should just throw them away. It's not like I can sell them now anyway. You gonna sell them? Hitomi asked. We're sorry. You think I'll be able to redo them? Aki, is there a stationery store around here? Yeah, up top Dogenzaka, Aki said. Here. He took a 5,000 yen note. Whoa, 5,000? Look at this millionaire. From his wallet and offered it to the girl to buy new paper. I know I can't replace this stuff you wrote, but... The girl eyed the money doubtfully. But it's fine. Go ahead, take it. Thank you very much. The girl spoke with surprising formality. Then she turned and headed up Dogenzaka. Whoa, 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 whoa. Aki gathered up the trash and tossed it into the garbage bin before he and Hitomi continued their way. Aki led Hitomi to an old multi-tenant building. They hurried inside and headed up the stairs. Behind the reception window on the second floor sat the custodian, sleeping on the job. Well, who is the custodian? Well, that's Yukinori Kitajima. His main job is overseeing the monitoring room for the local surveillance cameras. But on the side, he also works as a novelist and game scenario writer. He often sleeps on the job during his free time, but sometimes, while he's asleep, he gets his writing done. Just recently, a certain game was released set in Shibuya, but since he wrote the scenario and emailed it to the company while he was asleep, he didn't know about it until just the other day. Did he write this game? Hey, wake up, man! That's right, he writes while asleep. And he also emailed while asleep. Explains a lot. Got him. Aki gave the window a tap and the man woke with a start. Huh? A Chi-Chi? Don't scare me like that. That's one chi too many. And wow, you sure seem to have a lot of free time on your hands. Yeah, no one's been by to check today. But that's not so bad, right? I mean, I guess it is the surveillance room, but still. The man yet let out a big yawn. My dad asked me to come down here and check on the security monitors, actually. Sorry to bother you when you're so busy, Hitomi added with a polite bow. Huh? Who are you? You with a Chi-Chi? I'm Hitomi Osawa. Nice to meet you. Oh ho. Oh ho ho ho. What, you a Chi-Chi's girlfriend? Again, too many cheese there, and that's none of your business. Just let me have the key. Hoping his blush wasn't too obvious, Aki mimed unlocking a door. Do you won't answer a simple question and you want me to hand over the key? Yes, I'm his girlfriend, Hitomi said. We've just started dating. What? So I'm sure I'll be seeing more of you, sir. She flashed a winning smile. Oh, well, what a surprise. Never thought a Chi-Chi could land a fine lady like yourself. The surprised custodian held out the key. Good for you, a Chi-Chi. Still one chi too many there. But yeah, dating. Aki gazed into Hitomi's face, even more surprised than the custodian. The key dangled, swaying to and fro like a pendulum between Aki and the man behind the counter. Aki, Hitomi said, nudging him to the side with her elbow. Come on. Oh, right. Snapping out of it, Aki took the key and headed up to the next floor. Look at that face. I'm sorry, Hitomi said as they entered the monitoring room. For just saying we were dating like that, I mean. It was a pretty clumsy lie. No, it was just kind of sudden is all. I was just a bit jittery, I guess. Aki felt his cheeks color again. He's pogging. I mean, I figured I had to say something or he wasn't going to cooperate, Hitomi said. She looked a little embarrassed herself. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make things weird. No. Nah. It wasn't weird at all. Actually, it was kinda... He stopped himself there. Now wasn't the time for that sort of conversation. They needed to find that blue minivan. Oh yeah, let's go play some Warcraft 3. The surveillance camera monitoring room was really just a big office with a single computer. Aki knew it well. So this is the monitoring system, he explained. He switched on the computer. You can see all of downtown Shibuya from this one computer. Hitomi gazed impatiently at the monitor, even though it wasn't showing anything yet. The look of sheer determination on her face held Aki enthralled. You talk about how attractive your sister is, Aki murmured. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, you're the lovely one, Hitomi. Hitomi looked at him, uncertain. I mean, look at the lengths you're going to and the risks you're taking to save your sister, Aki said. I can't bear the thought that something might happen to her. And the last time we were together, I said such horrible things. Plenty of people do bad things without even realizing they're bad. Never mind trying to fix it. I'm just doing what I think is right. You really, man, making your move now? If not now, when? When? Yeah, but these days, most people don't do the right thing. That's true. Heck, if they did, Shibuya wouldn't be covered in trash like it is. Me, I appreciate it when someone really cares about the things that are important, like trash. Doing the right thing, as a matter of course, is very attractive. Aki blushed as he said it, and Hitomi shyly looked away. If you don't recycle, you're scum, says Aki. I think the system's ready. No, there's nothing on. Turning to the computer, Aki hastily changed the subject. This thing's so simple, even I know how to use it. Clicking on the mouse, he brought up a row of 4 windows on the monitor. Oh no, it's GIFs. Each window showed a different view of Shibuya cityscape. The image quality is not great, but that's because it's being updated on a 2-second delay, I guess. Aki tapped on the keyboard, bringing up shots of different locations. He clicked on one of them in order to enlarge the image. Maybe we really can find that minivan with this. Hitomi was practically glued to the screen. My dad's the one who designed the security system. Your dad must be pretty amazing. Well, he graduated at the top of his class at Tokyo Denko University. Denko University? Well, it's a prestigious national university founded over a century ago. Applicants who place highly on the entrance exam can receive full scholarship. Aki's father was one such attendee. The school has supported extensive research into artificial intelligence and recently announced an AI program known as Body. While the computer is asleep, different personalities emerge, which have an impact on various normal thought processes, forming a network of more human-like thought patterns as a result. He always said he could have had a career in computer engineering, but he took over the electronics shop so that he could marry my mother instead. Oh no! That's such a sweet story. Is it though? Is it though? Do they run the store together then? Aki shook his head. No, she divorced. Oh. No, my mother died when I was 4. No! No! His dreams destroyed and now saddled with the burden. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry for what? Hitomi sounded even sadder than Aki. Well, anyway, never mind that. Here, look. The seedy-looking weirdo they'd run into at Jigo was on the screen. That guy again. That said weirdo was running all out, a laptop computer under one arm. He was being chased by a man in a long coat. That guy sure gets chased around a lot, huh? Aki said. When the weirdo slipped out of view, Aki switched to another camera. The new view showed the weirdo running again. By hopping from camera to camera, they could track him wherever he went. So long as we have these cameras, Aki said, this guy has nowhere to run. Nowhere to run, huh? The moment he said those words, they struck an odd chord in his mind. He remembered the repeated run-ins with the man with the cane, how the assassin had seemed always to know where to find them. Aki, please, Hitomi urged. Stop messing around and let's look for the minivan. Having a child is a huge death flag, like coughing or being caught in the rain. That's true. It is very true. Sorry, there's just something I'm curious about. Aki continued to track the seedy-looking man. Oh, right, my bad. Aki switched over to a different camera. Oh, and another death flag? Retiring. Oh, I'm about to retire. Basically dead. Sorry, there's just something I'm curious about. Aki continued to track the seedy-looking man. The weirdo rushed into a knick-knack shop on Center Guy. Going home to marry your sweetheart? Basically dead. Anytime someone talks about their, like, they're looking forward to seeing their child, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, their family, they're dead. That's it. Like, oh, well, that's the end of this character. Soon after, the man with the coat appeared and followed him into the shop. Looking forward to a lucky stream? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. Aha, looks like he snatched that guy's computer. Moments later, the weirdo came rushing back to the shop and sprinted away again. He wove through the narrow alleyways with cat-like alacrity. Aki did his best to keep the tabs on him, but the man managed to give him the slip. Wow, Hitomi said. She too had been watching closely. I'm kind of impressed. Mind if I keep at it? Sure. They're just scanning the guy. He continued scanning camera images, trying to locate the guy again. At this point, even Hitomi was invested in the quest to find the fugitive. But minutes passed, and they didn't spot him. Aki was on the verge of giving up. Oh, that's me. Hitomi took out her cell phone. It's an email from Mr. Tana. Found him! Aki's shout cut Hitomi off. The guy was in a back alley off of Center. Maria? He was talking with someone. Huh? Is that? Aki blinked a few times as he leaned in closer to the screen. Hitomi, you have to come look at this. That's my sister. Hitomi brimmed with excitement. For real? Think so. What's she doing in a place like that? And why is she talking to that guy? I'm not sure. The monitor showed a cheerful little scene. Looks like they're having fun. Just since they're twins, they're both into older guys. As twins are known to do. Aki felt his mood start to sour. I have to ask, are you sure she was kidnapped? Yes, at least I sure thought so, and so did the police. And what's this all about? Should we go and see for ourselves? I guess so. But what about that email? Aki pointed at Hitomi's cell phone. Shouldn't you take a look at that? My sister comes first. That place where she is it far from here? No, not particularly. There's hope for you, just find twins. If it were so easy. Aki and Hitomi rushed from the building, heading for the alley where Maria was talking to the computer thief. It wasn't long before they were closing in on their destination. But as they headed down a narrow side street, a familiar figure suddenly appeared to bar their way. Policeman. Uh-oh, it's him. Gun in hand. The man with a cane slowly ambled towards them. Aki and Hitomi bolted down a nearby alley. Taking another turn, they reached the alley they'd seen on the cameras. Maria! Hitomi rushed over to her sister. But Maria just stood staring at Hitomi in silence, as if she couldn't process what was going on. Meanwhile, the assassin was still in pursuit. He had turned the corner behind them and was steadily drawing nearer. He pointed his gun at Hitomi's head. "Come on, hurry!" Aki urged. He tried to lead the two girls away, hoping to escape further down the alley. But instead, Maria charged boldly at the man with the cane. The assassin was caught off guard by the unexpected counterattack, but reacted quickly, clubbing the girl in the head with the grip of his pistol. "Maria!" Hitomi shrieked. He stared in horror as her sister collapsed in a heap on the ground. Then Hitomi's eyes rolled back in her head and she fainted into Aki's arms. "Hitomi, hey!" But the shock had overwhelmed her. She was out cold. Uh-oh. Slowly, the assassin lifted his gun again, aiming for Aki and Hitomi. If he only had Hitomi to protect, Aki might have been able to pick her up and get away. But he couldn't just leave her sister here. He knew the chilling certainty of despair that he could never save them both. Bad endo. Sisters in the alley. That's why you don't date twins. Because of assassins. Are you going for 100% bad ends? Yes. Well, let's do Maria. Just who am I? I ask myself again and again. I art thou. Tama, Tama. I am. Tama? Hitomi? Tama Hitomi? None of the above. Tama Hitomi. Tama? I turn at the sound of an exuberant voice and see Mr. Yanagishita running my way, flailing his arm in a friendly greeting. I swear this guy could wind up banished to the pits of hell, and he'd still give it his all, day in and day out. Oh, thank goodness. It is you, Tama. I knew it is. The man with a cane grumbles something incoherent, then holsters his gun and flees the scene. Huh? Now you're with some middle-aged guy? You look so sweet and innocent, but I guess you get around, huh? Boss, nice timing. I do a little fist pump. Whatever he's doing here, I'm glad he drove that guy with the gun. Huh? What are you so happy about? Yanagishita gives me a puzzled look. But he's promptly distracted by his own excitement. Well, anyway, never mind that. Tama. He shifts down to a conspiratorial whisper. You know, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I was in such a tizzy over some silly scratch card from a magazine. I can tell he has news he's itching to tell me. Did something happen? Well, hee 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 hee. He brings a hand to his mouth and giggles unsettlingly. Lucky, when are you gonna grow an afro? I already have an afro. Lucky, when are you gonna grow again? That's... My hair is growing, my nails. I had a great little idea. A great way to strike it rich. I feel like I've heard this from you before. Mr. Yanagashita shakes his head fervently. This time, it's different. We're talking way more digits than before. Now, try not to be too surprised, yeah? Spittle flies from his mouth as he rattles on. Or, it's okay to be surprised, actually. In fact, I'm guessing you're definitely going to be amazed this time, Tama. I can practically see the banknotes dancing in his eyes. Cut to the chase already. What is it you want to tell me? This time, get this. I got a line on 10 million yen. He thrusts his index finger skyward, grinning ear to ear. Surprised now? Yeah, you are. And it doesn't require any capital. It's no risk, high return. What does that mean? Well, in the world of equity investment, a wise investor weighs risk against the potential for return. Many heavily risky projects, however, yield little in the way of actual returns. Such cases are called high risk, low return. The inverse, low risk, high return, is quite rare. The idea of no risk, high return is simply absurd. There's a crazy gleam in his eye. Oh man, I'm finally gonna be part of the Billionaires Club. This is so ridiculous, I don't even have a snappy retort for it. Oh, Maria's breaking the fourth wall here. Look at this guy. Never mind that. 10 million obviously wouldn't make him a billionaire. By the way, you haven't seen Chiri, have you? We're gonna need her help to wrap up this 10 million yen. Chiri? No, I haven't run into her since the sales demo. Oh darn, well if you happen to see her, tell her to get in touch with me. Sure, alright. I still don't know what he's going on about, but there's probably no harm in being helpful. Thank you, Tama. I guess I may as well give you a little hint. A hint? Yeah, a hint. Want to hear it? Sure, thank you. No, not particularly. It's the eating contest, yeah, probably. Hey, brother! Sure, thank you. Well then, I guess you've got no choice when you put it that way. I just have to tell you. Mr. Yanagashita clears his throat and proceeds to declaim in an affected tone. When the mighty stomach triumphs over the endless cavalcade of icebergs, the hero shall be blessed with fame and fortune. That's literally the thinking emote. Huh? What the heck is that supposed to mean? He looks so inordinately amused at my confusion. It's part of a legend. You only need to remember that one verse for now. You're going to bear witness to history. I feel like this guy's right out of some kind of story himself. He's all scrambled, like a Shibuya Scramble. Anyway, thanks for helping me out with the Chiri thing. Adios! Adios, what the hell is that? And well, it's Spanish for goodbye. The true meaning is closer to the English farewell. In day-to-day interactions, most Spanish speakers use the word ciao. Adios can carry the connotation that you do not expect to see the addressee again. And then, like a whirlwind, Mr. Yanagashita zooms away, leaving me alone in the alley. Whew. Suddenly, I feel totally exhausted. I let out a sigh and drop my eyes. That's when I notice a notebook on the ground at my feet. Did the assassin drop this? I pick it up and look inside. Skip reading the explanations we already know. What? I don't know. Who knows what? There's a photograph tucked inside the back cover. It shows 3 young people, 2 boys and a girl. Who are they? Okay, skip all. Okay. Well, what do I know? What do I do now? Do I go to the police? How would I even explain the situation? I can see it now. There's this killer out there and he's after this person named Hitomi Osawa. And then the police would be like, who's that? And who exactly is after her? And then what would I say? Heck, they might not even give me the time of day in the first place. Not only do I not have any idea who Hitomi Osawa is, I know nothing about the guy who's after her except that he walks with a cane. I mean, I can't even tell them who I am. They would probably shoo me away without a second thought. What am I supposed to do? I hang my head at a total loss. The necklace around my neck sways idly to and fro. I'd like to finish this game before the end of the year. I mean, that's fair, but that's not really your Patreon game. Okay. Bomb. Jump. Explain to me what value is added? Well, if they put it in the game. Suddenly, I hear someone call out, Maria! Huh? I spin around to see a young girl running towards me. She kind of looks like me. Behind her are 2 men. One of them is the man with the cane, who raises his gun and aims it at her. Oh no, he's going to shoot her. The instant I realize what he's doing, I'm lunging towards him. He shifts his grip on the gun and clubs me in the head. I stagger against the wall, trying to keep my feet, but my legs buckle under me and I crumple on the spot. I don't even know why I tried to protect this girl. My body just moved on its own. Maybe it was just a reflexive impulse to help someone in danger. But am I the sort of person who'd risk her life to protect some complete stranger? Rusty's favorite. Play through Yasha's Patreon game twice as fast. No. So what do we do? Minarakawa's blocked. Do we have a jump? Let's not take a hint. No, not particularly. Oh, okay. Well, anyways, thanks for helping me out with that cheery thing. Adios. Ooh. Notebook. Inside. Oh, I know what I can do. I know what I can do. We can not look at the guy with Aki. And then they wouldn't find Maria. We'll still get the first one though. Okay, so Aki. All right, my bad. Aki switched over to a different camera. Continue switching views, scanning the streets of Shibuya, but there was no sign of the blue minivan anywhere. Still, they remained glued to the monitor. Oh, that's me. Hitomi took out her cell phone. It's an email from Mr. Tanaka. Oh, okay. Yeah, it was about time for my mood to take a dip, Aki thought. Remember, Tanaka might be working for the bad guys. What? Hitomi blurted. She looked up from her phone. Aki, Mr. Tanaka found the minivan. He what? What does it say? Read it to me. Okay. I ran after it, but it wound up losing sight of it. It was heading towards Jinan. That's what he says. What about your sister? Was she inside? He doesn't say. Aki switched over to an array of surveillance cameras near Jinan. A few seconds, the transition felt agonizingly slow. Finally, 4 new images popped up. Aki quickly enlarged one of them. Ah! Hitomi let out a tiny gasp. He is working for the bad guy, that's true. There on the monitor was the blue minivan. There was no doubt about it. Speed lines. Give me a second here. Aki and Hitomi rushed from the building, speeding towards Jinan in an all-out run. Neither spoke, they simply dashed along in silence. Aki felt as if they'd been running a marathon and the finish line had finally come into view. They hooked a left at the station and darted past Seibu department store. Aha! Aki pointed as he came to a stop. The blue minivan was still there, parked by the curb along the slight hilly incline. Leaving Aki behind, Hitomi started rushing up the hill. Alarm bells started going off in Aki's mind. Someone from the kidnapping crew was in that van. It was dangerous to approach carelessly. Stay back, don't get too close. Hitomi, wait! Stay back, don't get too close, Aki shouted. But she didn't appear to hear his cries. The hope of rescuing her sister had driven all else from her mind. Aki started to run after her. Hitomi had reached the vehicle already. She brought her face close to one of the windows, but the tinted glass obscured the view inside. Hitomi circled around to the minivan's other side. Aki saw her grasping at the door. She slipped out of view for just a moment. Boom! There was a thunderous explosion, and a gout of flame tore the roof off the minivan like it was made of an aluminum foil. Hitomi! Horrified, Aki charged through the roiling smoke, searching for Hitomi. He saw two figures sprawled on the street several meters from the van. Hitomi and Kanan. Hitomi, wake up! Aki cradled her in his arms. Her eyes drifted open faintly. Are you okay? Are you hurt? Hitomi didn't appear to understand him. Her only response was a blank, dazed look. There was a small patch of red on her face. Aki wiped it away gently with a finger. He saw no further signs of bleeding. She must have been splattered by someone else's blood then. As far as he could tell, she hadn't been gravely injured. Aki let out a sigh of relief. Hitomi, is she all right? Kanan stared on the ground. Her clothes were scorched in places, and she was bleeding from her head. Kanan, did you save her? Is she all right? Yeah, what about her sister? Kanan didn't respond. No, it can't be. Aki went to look inside the van. Amidst the smoke and the flames, he could make out the outline of a body. What happened here? Aki had to look away. Get Hitomi out of here, hurry. If those guys show back up. Kanan's face twisted up in pain. All right. Aki settled Hitomi carefully in his arms. Wait, I need to tell you something. Kanan's pained gasp called him back. Alphard. Huh? Alphard. That's the name of the mastermind. I'm sure it'll come up again if you keep pursuing this. But if you value your life, don't get involved with Alphard any further. Now go. Okay, thanks. With Hitomi in his arms, he hurried from the scene. He wasn't sure where he was headed. He just wanted to get away, wherever that meant. He carried her past the crowd of onlookers that had swiftly begun to assemble. The flames of the burning van rose ever higher, roaring up towards the heavens. Oh, so it wasn't the right decision. Whew. Suddenly, I feel totally exhausted. Let out a sigh and drop my eyes, and that's when I notice a notebook on the ground at my feet. Now, we already know this. We already know. Oh. Keep out? There was a jump at that guy? Run, Aki, run, Hitomi, run the other guy who's looking for Miku. This is why we want to read the blue things. Running along Kowendori in pursuit of Miku, Minarakawa heard a cell phone ringtone coming from somewhere nearby. Whoa! Suddenly, a massive fiery blast knocked him from his feet. Deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what just happened. He smelled the foul scent of burning rubber. Then came a sound of quick footsteps rushing up to him. Mr. Minarakawa! A voice called out to him, as if across an impossible distance. Mr. Minarakawa! Was that Miku? He forced his eyes open and saw Miku looking anxiously down at him. Mr. Minarakawa! Miku, those things I said earlier, I'm sorry. I went too far. Well, what are you talking about? That's not important right now. Miku choked back a gasp, and Minarakawa realized he had blood leaking from his mouth. His body wouldn't move. His mind was reeling. What happened? Tell me. Miku's voice was dry and hoarse. There was a minivan. It exploded. Exploded? A minivan exploded on a city street? That sounded like a terrorist act. His reeling mind drifted back to the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside of an NPD station, and afterwards a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. With sudden clarity, Minarakawa recalled what Osawa said earlier. The power balance of the entire world might be at stake here. Could there be some sort of connection between Osawa's warning and this explosion? There was. There has to be. Minarakawa's journalistic intuition told him it must be true. Something terrible was underway here in Shibuya. Police! A man in a suit announced. Crouched beside Minarakawa, gently lifted his head and torso. Hang in there, buddy. Stay with us. The change of position allowed Minarakawa to clear his airway, and he sucked in a deep breath. But as he did, an intense pain shot through his lungs. I think I might be done for. Whatever his intuition might be telling him, it didn't look like he'd be ever able to write about it. But if he couldn't get his words out on a page, the least he could do was tell someone else. With his last act, maybe he could still accomplish something. He strained to get a few words out. Osawa, Kenji Osawa. The power balance. The entire world. As his voice failed, he heard the sound of an ambulance, the ambulance sirens approaching. Paramedics began frantically unloading the stretchers. Turning his head, he saw a number of other people who had been injured in the explosion laid out on the roadside. Amongst them were a woman and a child. Emergency workers bearing a stretcher came over to Minarakawa. Forget about me. I'm beyond helping. See to the others instead. Minarakawa shouted inwardly, but no one heard. I don't know how to stop that. Jump? Oh, maybe the girl and the child. Maybe the child is the one we gave $50 to. I eventually muster up the energy to start walking around town, heading nowhere in particular. The billboard outside of a department store displays a poster of some female musician. She must be pretty popular because lots of passerby stop to take a good look. Am I just imagining things? I feel like I saw the same poster somewhere very recently. Is that Aya Kamiki? Standing underneath the sign is a woman taking on her cell phone. She sounds like she's having an argument with whoever's on the line. I don't want to be nosy, so I pass on. I come out to Kowandori and gradually come to a halt. I'm a little tired from all this aimless wandering around. I let my gaze stray along the street as I consider my next move. Then I catch the sight of a blue minivan parked across the street. Oh. Suddenly, my heart starts pounding. I know this. I know this minivan. If I head over to it, I'm sure I'll remember something. As if I'm pulled by some huge magnet, I make my way towards the vehicle. There's a sudden thunderous boom. I'm knocked flat by a blast of energy, and the world goes all topsy-turvy. As I lie in shock, a wave of unfamiliar images fill my mind. A cloud of whirling dust in some place that isn't Japan. A simple room with unfamiliar architecture. A girl. And I know the girl's name. Her name is... On the verge of that revelation, my consciousness fades away. Do we take a hint? Everyone's got bad ends. Tommy, wait! Aki shouted. Yeah, okay, yeah. Don't matter. Oh, wait, it does matter. It actually does matter? Tell me, wait! Aki shouted, but she didn't appear to hear his cries. Oh, because he said her name. The hopes of rescuing her sister had driven all else from her mind. Aki started run after her. Blah blah. Boom. I think I'm gonna do something. There's something here where we run into the girl, right? We're gonna leave. He managed to avoid crashing into her by taking a tumble himself, but the girl was still definitely a bit shocked. Sorry about that. Are you alright? But the girl didn't answer, or even meet Aki's eye. She just looked around as if in a daze. Was she waiting on someone? Odd kid, Aki thought. I hope she's okay. She's carrying papers. He saved 50 bucks. Maybe that'll come into play later. See, Maria, no longer bad end either, so... I catch sight of little Hana in front of the billboard. She's showing something to a woman there, some colorful sheets of paper. That woman looks a lot like the musician in the poster. Moreover, I have this feeling I've seen her someplace before. Is that guy a That's what I said! Everyone was like, no. Where could I have seen her? Man, having amnesia is really a pain in the A. I have no way of knowing whether I've forgotten something or had no memory of it in the first place. The woman looks through the papers Hana held out to her, nodding and approving at each one. I can hear her murmur with admiration. Hana! I wave as I scamper over to her. As I do, the woman abruptly hurries off. Hey, we meet again. Hana just gives me a bored look. Who was that just now? I don't know. Hana quickly gathers up her belongings and starts walking briskly away. Oh, hey, wait up, I call out. The girl ignores me. She's moving at a jog, heading from the Spanish Hill towards Kowandori. Ah! As she steps out into Kowandori, she trips and falls down hard. The content of her bag spills out on the road. Oh, she does a face plant. Oh, whoops. Catching up to her, I gather up some of the fallen pages. What's this? There are some poems written on the colored paper. Can't read it. A look of embarrassment crosses Hana's face, and she snatches the pages out of my hands. Don't touch those! Those are for sale. For sale? I'm selling poems that I wrote. Wow, that's incredible. She looks surprised by the compliment. Incredible. My friends at school said they were dumb. That's not true. I only saw a little just now, but I thought it was a really good poem. You're just saying that. I've been out here in Shibuya for weeks trying to sell these. But the only person who's bought one was that lady just now. Hana lets out a mournful sigh. Well, what are you out here selling poems for anyways? I thought maybe it'd help pay back our debts. Oh no! Oh no! Huh? Okay, that's not something I'd expect to hear from a little kid. My dad's in real deep. She continues. The topic makes me think of Mr. Yanagishita. Yes, today's my day for meeting people mired in debt. And I'm only in elementary school, so I can't get a part-time job. Well, what is a part-time job? Well, Japan's Labor Standards Act prohibits the hiring of children under the age of 15. For certain jobs within the entertainment industry, however, employers can obtain a permission from the Labor Standards Inspection Office for younger children to work. I'm impressed. She's so brave. She's maybe a little hard to approach, but she's just a kid after all. She's so brave. I just want to give her a hug. Oh, Hana! I hear a strange wailing call from behind me. Startled, I turn around to see Mr. Toyama standing there, tears streaming from his eyes. Hana, I'm so sorry. I had no idea you were trying so hard to. Toyama rushes up to the girl. It's quite the emotional father and daughter reunion. Or at least that's how it looks until Hana slaps her father across the face with a bundle of papers. What was that for? Don't you give me that. I'm sick of all this running around. She delivers several more well-placed smacks with her little craft project. Maria looks so smug. Okay. Toyama says, at last, I know you're upset, but I have to ask you for just one thing. Then we can see about getting through the day, yeah? Okay, but just one. I can't help but find this ornery interaction kind of charming. You two get along really well, don't you, I say. Yep, nope. The two give simultaneous, contradictory replies. Then Hana sullenly starts to walk off, with Toyama pottering after her. It's such a weird little sight, but I can't help but laugh. Well, later then. Oh, Maria! Oh, Maria. Further along Kowendori, I come across a car on the roadside that's spectacularly aflame. A group of onlookers surround it in a confused uproar. It seems almost unreal, like I'm looking at it set for a TV show or something. I stand there staring into the flames. Huh? What's that? I can see something. The raging heat makes the air shimmer. The scent of dry sand fills my nose. A gust of searing wind tugs at my hair. Where am I? Decaying roads, decaying houses, a decaying city. And the people who live there. People who live. People who live. People who live. There's someone by my side. Someone is with me watching all of this. It's a girl. The person with me is a girl, slightly younger than me. Master Assassin. She says something to me. Anna is me. I thought her name was Kanan. Cat's Cradle. That's my voice now. Cat's Cradle? Whose voice was that? What's going on? Who am I talking to? Yeah, Cat's Cradle. I'm showing someone how to do a cat's cradle with string. But who? Who am I showing how to do a cat's cradle? Canaan. The word Canaan echoes in my head. Or is it Canaan? Canaan? I uttered the name aloud. The images floating through my mind are beginning to break up and vanish. What I feel like, for a brief moment at least, I caught hold of the edges of some of my lost memories. Canaan? Yeah. That's right, Canaan. As soon as I say it, I'm filled with a powerful sense of duty. There's something I'm responsible for, something I needed to do. If I don't, this Canaan person is going to be in grave danger. Calm down, just calm down. I'm pleading with myself now, fighting the impulse to take off running. If I did, where would I go? I have no idea what my destination or my goal even is. Please, please remember something. Please, please. I gaze out at the flames, practically praying now. Don't move. A voice hisses in my ear, and I feel something hard press against my back. I don't need to turn around to recognize whose voice it is. I thought you said you didn't have any business with... I did a little thinking, says the man with the cane slowly. About how I might lure out Hitomi Osawa, see? I'm going to use you as bait. Bait? That's to be continued for sure. Yeah. To be continued, to be continued. Alright, let's go see Minorikawa then. Hey, tell me, wait! As he rang along Kowendori after Miku, Minorikawa heard someone shout out a familiar name, Hitomi. That was a pretty common name. Ordinarily, he wouldn't have given a second thought, but he remembered that one of Miss Midoriyama winners was named Hitomi Osawa. That made him curious. A moment later, he heard a cell phone ringtone. He immediately recognized it as an Ayaka Amiki song. His reporter's instincts tingled. He stopped to take a look around, and one young woman caught his eye almost immediately. He couldn't assume that any pretty girl he saw was Miss Minoriyama. After all, it would be a little too convenient if it just so happened to run into her now. Still, it didn't cost him anything to ask, "Are you Hitomi Osawa?" He might as well at least check. But to his own surprise, he hesitated in embarrassment. He'd never been too embarrassed to ask a question before. He didn't get the chance to contemplate that realization. Blew up. A massive, fiery blast knocked him from his feet. A deafening roar set his head throbbing. What was that? What's going on? He lay in a daze on the ground, trying to wrap his mind around what just happened. Behind him, there was a minivan, fiercely ablaze. A minivan, an explosion. The first thing to pop into his mind was the attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gaseki 2 years earlier. An unoccupied minivan had exploded outside an MPD station, and afterwards a device meant to scatter a dangerous biological agent had been discovered near the subway. In the end, no one was harmed, but there were rumors that the government had paid a terrorist organization a hefty sum to keep it that way. Right now, Minorikawa was a stone throw from Shibuya Precinct. Could this be a repeat of the Kasumi Gaseki attack? The entire area was in an uproar. People were running around in a panic. Minorikawa could see several injured people lying on the ground unmoving. And yet, despite the gravity of the situation, numerous onlookers were casually taking photos on their cell phone. Can't believe it. People, am I right? Minorikawa got to his feet when he went to try to get everyone away from the scene of the explosion. Hey, you guys, get back! There could be another bomb! Minorikawa looked around as he pushed back the crowd. He was getting a strong whiff of a scoop. He needed to write his copy ASAP, but he couldn't just turn his back on the situation now. Two young men were strolling towards the burning vehicle. They had the look of juvenile delinquents. Whoa, what the heck? Is this for real? Ain't this dangerous? Like, for serious? The pair tried to find an optimal vantage point. Hey, Minorikawa snapped. Don't get any closer. He spread his arms to hold them back. The young men came to a halt, but otherwise paid him no heed. Oh, this is bad. This is for real bad. You think this is a terrorist thing? Yo, get out your phone. Come on. Wait, do you think it's a terrorist thing? Dude, shut up. Just hurry up and call Susumu. The taller of the two, dressed in red, was ordering his blue-clad companion. Huh? The boy in blue huffed. And do it yourself. Say what now? Beep. This ain't no time to get yourself all worked up. Minorikawa stood there, arms still held wide, getting more and more annoyed at their back and forth. Yo, just make the call, man. The young fellow in red scowled. He wasn't going to back down. Huh? Yo, what difference does it make if I do it or you do it? Doesn't make any difference, so it don't matter if you do it. Yeah, right, it don't matter. So in that case, you do it. Look, I'm telling you just to make the darn call. And I'm telling you just to make it your darn self. Oh, enough of this already. Minorikawa opened his mouth to tell him off. But then the young man in red spoke again. Dude, the goods from over at Endo Electronics are gone. You gotta let Susumu know. The name Endo Electronics caught Minorikawa's attention. Huh? Yeah, but ain't that all that Aki dude's fault for getting all huffy at us? I mean, it was Kiryu who told us to go find the Endo storehouse. Yeah, but Susumu don't like dealing in stolen goods. He says it dirties the SOS name. Oh, what a coincidence. Looks like these two were SOS members. Hey, Minorikawa called out, you two. Finally succeeded in getting their attention. Where's this Susumu fellow? I'd like to talk to him. He had no idea who Susumu was, having only heard the name just now. Still, from the way those two were talking, it seemed clear that he held some position of leadership. You think I'd tell you, find you? The fellow in red snarled. Minorikawa kept his composure. Listen, you guys know the Tenryu Gumi. The Tenryu Gumi was a Yakuza syndicate that operated in Shibuya. It's an up-and-coming Yakuza syndicate that turned up on the scene 10 years ago with the seemingly legitimate Takarada financing as its business front. The group offers monetary solutions for people in financial trouble, but those who accept their offer soon find that their troubles only grow and grow, embroiled in conflict with the Kanto Shiramine Gumi, who have been long established in Shibuya. These street kids were sure to be familiar with the name if nothing else. I may not look it, but I'm pretty tight with the Tenryu Gumi. And maybe you two don't know it, but Susumu's been showing up at their office a lot lately. Susumu's been dealing with the Yakuza. What, for real? Sweet! The two punks spotted completely. What's SOS using as their hangout these days? I've got a little something to discuss with Susumu. Well, right now it's the bar called Inferno. Minorikawa made a mental note of the name. Right, and Inferno is where exactly? The two young men suddenly looked distinctly uncomfortable. Uh-oh. Later. I got a thing to do. Backing away, they took off through the crowd. Hey, wait up! I need to know where Inferno is. But the pair had already vanished. Ambulances began arriving at the scene and paramedics rushed out to tend the wounded. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? Minorikawa turned to see a man in a suit approach him, flashing his badge. Can't do it. So a detective with questions for him, huh? How about you answer a few questions for me? Was that an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident, Minorikawa exclaimed. Huh? The detective looked pretty flummoxed. I've been around the block a few times and I know all your police PR lingo. And when you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Brushing aside Minorikawa's remark, the detective tried another question. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Minorikawa thought back to the moments before the minivan blew up. Now that you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. The detective tilted his head. A ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way the ring phone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. Minorikawa struck the thought from his own mind as he said it. In all likelihood, he'd associated the ringtone and the explosion simply because one had happened right before the other. Kano. A large-statured Caucasian man had called out to the detective. Evidently, the detective name was Kano. Thank you for your cooperation, he said with a bow. Then he ran over to the foreigner. Mr. Minorikawa. Minorikawa turned at a female voice behind him. He found Miku standing there. She looked like she'd been crying. Miku, about earlier, He trailed off, searching for an apology. It's okay. That doesn't matter right now. Miku looked around the scene. Minorikawa followed her gaze. Something big went down here, he said. I know, she explained. The explosion. I saw it happen with my own eyes. You what? Miku looked around nervously. Are you all right? He asked her. You're not hurt, are you? I'm okay. My ears are still ringing a bit, that is all. Good. So what did you see at the time of the explosion? Miku assumed a thoughtful expression. There was this girl who was running towards the minivan. And then I think I saw this other Middle Eastern girl suddenly make a dive for her. And then the van just exploded. Wait, hold on, Minorikawa said. So if I'm getting this right, so it sounds like this Middle Eastern girl saved the girl who was running up to the van? Miku nodded. Just then, Minorikawa's phone chimed and just received an email. It was from Chiaki. Mr. Mino, are you still working on your copy? He checked his watch. At this point, the 4 o'clock deadline was merely 20 minutes away. Nonetheless, he decided to stay at the bomb scene. He could definitely smell a scoop here. He was sure of it. Even if he couldn't get his 6 pages done by 4, landing a major scoop would be enough to persuade the loan company. Minorikawa jotted his phone number down and handed it to Miku. I'll make things up to you, he said. Give me a call later. Miku took the scrap of paper, puzzled. If you're looking for an Aiki Jiu-Jitsu dojo, I know a few. At that, her face lit up. Minorikawa decided to process the scene for clues. As he wandered around, he caught the sight of Detective Kano and his Caucasian colleague heading down an alley. What's this, a smell? something pretty darn fishy. If they were slipping away for a private conversation, maybe there was some way he could listen in. Minorikawa hurried into one of the buildings that bordered the alley. He looked around and found a public bathroom upstairs on the alley side of the building. Hoping beyond hope, he slipped up to the bathroom window. Voices outside. He held his breath and listened. Those international criminals you mentioned. Kano's words were faint, but he could make them out. Minorikawa did a little fist pump. Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago, they infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA, you mean... The discussion involved with some terms Minorikawa wasn't familiar with. He focused all his mental energy on what the two were saying. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. 100%, Minorikawa muttered to himself. The shock caused him to unclench the fist he didn't realize he'd made. This wasn't just an interesting conversation, it was monumental. It has an incubation period of 12 hours, another 4 hours. Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus throughout the city. It's capable of airborne transmission? If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms, yes? Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Minorikawa felt goosebumps rise all over his body. If they were talking about a virus and a Kenji Osawa, they could only mean that Kenji Osawa. He recalled what Osawa had said earlier about the power balance of the world being at stake. There was no doubt about it. This was a tremendous scoop. Well then, we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible. Just calm down. There's more to the story than... it's starting to leak out. This door swung open loudly and someone came barging into the bathroom. It was Yanagishita. Why him again? And why here of all places? Oh, I'm leaking here. Yanagishita was on the verge of hysterics. His voice must have been audible outside. Kano and his companion went to take their discussion elsewhere. And they were just getting to the good part. You son of a bee! Enraged, Minorikawa grabbed Yanagishita and tossed him to the floor. I'm leaking! Shut your mouth! He put all of his strength into an ankle hold and gave it a good twist. It's a professional wrestling technique that involves grabbing the opponent by the ankle. Being caught up like this can be extremely painful. It puts a lot of pressure on the lower body, and when you're already fighting the urge to urinate, well... Yanagishita wailed. Minorikawa left the idiot blubbering in the bathroom and hurried out of the building. He hadn't heard the whole discussion, but he had a scoop on his hand anyway. This would be a tremendous score for Heaven Publishing, enough to let the company rebuild. He was certain of it. And if I'm the one saying it, it's gotta be true. As he ran along, Minorikawa tried to plan his next steps. First, he had to get back to the editing office. He'd explain the situation to the people from the loan company. Then he'd go find that paperwork for Osawa and have Chiaki check his copy. After that, okay, he still had a lot of things he needed to do. He swatted himself on both cheeks to get himself psyched up. His phone rang. It was Chiaki. Mr. Mino, something terrible has happened. Chiaki's voice was a broken yelp. Oh, calm down. Over on Kowandori, the minivan exploded. Yeah, I'm well aware. Thanks to that, I've got a big scoop that Chiaki cut him off. Just now, I just got a call from Mr. Toyama's daughter, Hana. This time, Minorikawa waited for her to finish. He had a sinking feeling. She said that Mr. Toyama was in there. It was a suicide. What? Minorikawa's knees buckled. Tell me you're joking. No, I mean, the van explosion is all over the news. And Hannah was in tears on the phone and... Mr. Mino? Mr. Mino, are you still there? Toyama had killed himself? Minorikawa felt the energy drained from his body. No. To be continued. I think we're all going to because Osawa basically his plotline stopped because the two girls died, but now the girls did not die. Video. I like how Stanley's all stern in the cutscenes, but on the video he looks like a goofball. Kano saw the flames. This hadn't been an accident. Someone had set off an explosion. The Shibuya precinct wasn't too far from here. Kano recalled the attempted bioterrorism attack on Kasumi Giseki. 2 years ago, the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Public Safety Commission obtained intel of an imminent bioterrorist attack within the city. Immediately afterwards, an unoccupied minivan exploded outside the Metropolitan Police Department, and a device for dispersing a bacterial contagion was discovered at the subway platform in Kasumi Giseki Station. Having determined that the city bureaucracy was the target, the Japanese government contacted the terrorist organization responsible in secret, making a deal to put an end to the threat. That incident had begun with a van exploding outside of the Tokyo MPD station. Already, a large crowd of onlookers was gathering. Shouts rose up as they took in the scene. What's going on? What happened? The car's on fire! Kano called in to the HQ, then quickly slipped around to the back of the burning vehicle. It was a minivan. Peering at the flaming chassis, he could see that there was someone inside. Oh no, could that be Hitomi? Once they had their hands on the antiviral, the criminals would have no further use for Hitomi Osawa. Already, the body had been charred to ash. At this point, it was hardly recognizable as human anymore. We actually have a jump though. It's Minorikawa. Several people were on the ground nearby, evidently injured by the explosion. A girl in a hoodie was crouched among them, doing her best to tend to her injuries. Their injuries. That girl was Miku Morita. While walking along, upset at Minorikawa for not introducing her to an Aiki Jiu-Jitsu dojo, she happened across the aftermath of the minivan explosion. Unable to stand idly by when faced with such horrific scene, she pitched in as best as she could to help the wounded. Kano recognized her as the girl he talked to earlier during the traffic jam. Police, he announced. Get back, let me handle this. The girl was visibly relieved. Help her, she said. She pointed to a figure lying on the sidewalk a short distance from the burning minivan. It was a Middle Eastern girl. She appeared to be unconscious. I think she got hurt rescuing another girl about college age. The girl in the hoodie said, college age girl? That might be Hitomi. What happened to the girl she saved? Kino asked. The Good Samaritan looked around. Huh? Where'd she go? The rescuee had disappeared. This girl here, the girl in the hoodie, gestured towards the fallen girl. I can't believe how fast she was. She spoke in a hint of awe. The way she moved to get to that other girl, she was on a level way beyond mine. Kano took another look at the injured girl. Her figure looked rather delicate. It was hard to believe she was capable of great feats of athleticism. He started towards her, but Stanley stepped ahead of him. Leave this one to me, he said. His expression was unusually stern, even for him. You know her? Kano asked. The American didn't answer as he checked the girl's pulse, then her pupils. Hey, Stanley. Don't you have other things you should be doing? Stanley snapped. Fine, then. Kano decided to collect some eyewitness accounts. Didn't she say to stay away from Stanley? Police cars and ambulances arrived at the scene in a steady stream. Once the vehicle fire was under control, things gradually began to calm down. Several officers worked to cover the area around the burned minivan with a blue tarp. Kano got his questioning underway, starting by flashing his badge at a man near the front of the crowd. Excuse me, would you mind answering a few questions? The man puffed himself up. How about you answer a few questions for me? Is this an accident or an attack? We still don't know many details, Kano admitted. The man shoved his finger in Kano's face. Let me rephrase that for you. This is a major incident. Huh? I've been around the block a few times and I know all your police PR lingo. When you start talking about the details, that is 100% indicative of a major incident. Well, I sure picked the wrong guy to try to talk to. Stifling his frustration, Kano continued his questioning. Did you happen to notice anything unusual prior to the explosion? Unusual? Now that you mention it, I think I heard a cell phone ringtone. Ringtone? No, never mind, forget that. There's no way a ringtone on someone's phone would be audible through all of that. The man was probably right, but somehow the idea nagged at Kano. He jotted down a note on his pad. Kano. Stanley. It was Stanley, perfect timing. Thank you for your cooperation, Kano told the man, and he hurried on his way. Stanley stepped in close enough to whisper, who is that guy? An eyewitness to the explosion, apparently. Did he have any info? He said he heard a cell phone ringtone at the time of the explosion. Not sure if that's significant, though. Stanley stood silently for a moment, thinking. What about that girl? Kano asked. Has she woken up? No. I'm gonna drive her to the hospital. Huh? Why do that yourself? Just look around, Stanley said. He cast his eyes out over the scene. There were still many injured people lying on the roadside. It seems the authorities hadn't sent enough ambulances. But isn't your car back in Maru Yamacho? Kano asked. Under the circumstances, I think it makes sense for me to go back for it, Stanley replied coolly. Besides, I have a few things I'd like to ask her. Kano was curious. You do? He asked. Stanley's cell rang. Yes? Stanley answered the phone in English. As he listened, his demeanor changed. The blood drained from his face, and his hand began to tremble slightly as it gripped the phone. Kano had never seen him this shaken up. You got it, Stanley said at last. He hung up the phone and let out a sigh. What is it? Kano asked. Stanley headed into an alleyway. Without responding, Kano hurried after him. Once they were out of earshot of the crowd, Stanley finally spoke. That call right now was from Gordon, my superior. Are you Batman? He broke off there and for a long while was silent. He appeared to be struggling with some strong emotion. Kano was getting impatient. What is it? If you're going to tell me something, then tell me. Kano decided not to press. If it's that difficult to talk about, you don't have to. Let's go with A. What is it? If you're going to tell me, then tell me. All right. Stanley said at last. I can trust you with this. Wow, I never thought I'd hear you say that you trust me, Kano teased. But Stanley's expression remained dead serious. We were contacted on our end by the mastermind of this plot. Those international criminals you mentioned? Correct. Roughly 8 hours ago. They infected Maria Osawa with the UA virus. Then they let her loose somewhere in Shibuya. Hold on. By UA you mean... Kano thought back to his earlier conversation with Stanley. These criminals were trying to get their hands on a new drug. An antiviral drug developed by Kenji Osawa that had been shown to be effective against the UA virus. Stanley hesitated before continuing. This is a killer virus with a 100% mortality rate once it takes hold. Kenji Osawa's antiviral is our only means of combating it. Mortality rate of 100%. It has an incubation period of 12 hours, and in another 4, Maria Osawa will go symptomatic. After that, she'll begin spreading the virus throughout the city. It's capable of airborne transmission? What was that? Following the onset of symptoms, individuals affected with the UA virus bleed from the lungs, and the virus is readily released into the air via coughing. The UA virus is highly resilient in open air and can survive even after saliva or other fluids have evaporated. Simply getting in within 2 meters of a symptomatic patient is said to carry a high risk of infection. Bodily fluids from deceased patients carry an especially high concentration of the virus, and anything contaminated with such fluids must be thoroughly sterilized before it is safe. Damn. Stanley nodded. If we don't administer Kenji Osawa's antiviral before she develops symptoms, yes? Kano's voice was trembling. Stanley spoke with complete certainty. Everyone in Shibuya is going to die. Well then, we need to find Maria Osawa and get the antiviral to her as soon as possible, Kano said, panicking. Stanley remained cool. Just calm down. There's more to the story that... Stanley was interrupted by a strange sound from the upper floors of a nearby building. Unsure what it was, the two men hurriedly relocated. They paused when they came to a vacant lot. The place was deserted. No need to worry about being overheard there. You said there was more to the story, Kano prompted. The antiviral in question is stored in Kenji Osawa's lab. The lab is protected by a sophisticated security system, and apparently the storage area where the drug is kept requires fingerprint authentication for both Osawa and Tanaka. I heard somebody vent. It's true. But Tanaka's... Kano couldn't help but gasp. Tanaka was currently a fugitive, the prime suspect in the kidnapping case. There was no chance of getting any fingerprint authorization from him at this stage. Is there any other way to get in? The door can also be unlocked via password in the place of the fingerprint scanner. But we still need to know what Tanaka chose for his password. No. In any event, it's essential that we track down and secure Maria, But he went on, his voice grave. Even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is now in possession of the UA virus. And if they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in the city are in their hands. Kano felt a pulse of fear deep enough to give him vertigo. He slowly tilted his back. He told... No, that's not written right. He slowly tilted back his head and gazed at the sky, vast and blue as always. There had to be tens of thousands of people in Shibuya right now. Rumi and Shizuo were among them. And they might all be dead within a day. It felt so unreal, Kino's mind almost couldn't process it. With an effort of will, he shook himself out of his daze. Now was no time to waver. We have to try, he said. In the next 4 hours, we need to find Maria Osawa and figure out a way to stop this mastermind and the UA virus. The words were as much for himself as they were for his companion. Let's do this, Stanley. We may not always see eye to eye, but together, I feel like you and I can find a way. But Stanley averted his gaze. My job here is simply to apprehend the mastermind. Kino felt a resurgence of his earlier anger at Stanley. Once again, he was putting his duties above human life. I'm sorry. Stanley's voice was a quiet mutter. You should get away from Shibuya as soon as possible, Kano. Kano hadn't imagined that the American would ever be worried for him. I appreciate the warning, he said, but I'm seeing this through to the end. This isn't the sort of thing you can solve with just an effort of willpower. Even so, giving up isn't the Japanese detective way. Stanley let out a nasal chuckle. Back to that again, are we? Same to you. Kano managed a tiny chuckle of his own. Listen, Stanley went on after a moment. This is just between you and me. The mastermind behind this kidnapping case is an arms dealer who goes by the name Alfard. What is an arms dealer? Well, beyond simply selling weapons, illegal arms dealers are also frequently involved in smuggling weapons unlawfully obtained through deals with government or military contacts. In recent years, such enterprises have become increasingly globalized. Some dealers form smuggling networks and also deal in money laundering, drug trafficking, and more. Alfard, the attempted bioterrorists, they're unleashing bears! The attempted bioterrorist attack on Kasumi Gaseki, a hotel bombing in Chicago. Alfard had a hand in all of them. What do you know about this criminal? Kino asked. Stanley's expression grew even darker. He's my brother. Alfard's signature is extremely meticulous planning. But I don't mean meticulous in the same way you and I might normally think of it. Their plans are perfectly imperfect. Do you get what I mean? Kano shook his head. Alfard deliberately engineers accidents to make things complicated and unpredictable. It's difficult to get a good grasp of what's going on when the situation seems to be falling apart. People tend not to consider that coincidental mishaps might be anything but. In the end, they don't even realize they were playing right into the mastermind's hands all along. You could hear the intensity in Stanley's voice. I'm I'm afraid that's all I can say. Stanley held out his right hand. See you around, Kano, if we're still alive. We're still alive. Kano let that sink in for a moment. Nah, I'll shake your hand after we finish this case. With a slight smile, Stanley withdrew his hand. Then the two fist bumped instead. All right, we'll meet again, Kano. I'm sure of it. Yeah, see you then. No sooner had Stanley departed than Kuze's voice came in over the wireless. Attention, all units. As of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. The director's voice sounded strangely cold. I repeat, as of now, further investigation on the kidnapping case is suspended. Wait, hold on, sir. What is it, Kano? Could you let us know why? We've received information that Maria Osawa has been infected with an unknown virus and has been released somewhere in Shibuya. That matched up with what Stanley had said earlier. An anti-bioterrorism security force will probably be deployed in Shibuya. Bioterrorism. Terrorism involving biological agents such as bacteria or viruses. Biological weapons are easier to acquire and transport than nuclear weapons because they rely on an organism's natural ability to proliferate or infect. It can yield powerful results for low effort. For these reasons, in recent years have seen widespread apprehension about the possibility that such weapons might be used by terrorists. In the event that a bioterrorist attack occurred in Japan, temporary quarantine and decontamination facilities would be set up in the area affected. This is no longer a simple kidnapping case. Our part in this is finished. No, it's not. We haven't managed to resolve anything, Kano. I assure you, everyone else feels the same as you do. Kuze's voice had a cautionary tone. They're still performing the autopsy on the body found in the blue minivan that exploded. I'll let you know once we have the positive ID. Kuze out. Director! The line had already gone dead. Left at a loss, Kano gazed out at the cityscape. The sight of the bombed vehicle had calmed down briefly, but now that news networks had begun reporting, the herd of onlookers was growing. There was also a sizable crowd gathered outside of a large home electronics store. The large LCD televisions on display were showing a press conference being held by the governor of Tokyo. Kano might learn something new about the case. He decided to watch the broadcast. Kano's part in this was over. He had to hurry and find Rumi before it was too late. Well, we know Kano doesn't want to give up, so he decided to watch the broadcast. Working closely with the administration, we are keeping a careful eye on the situation as it develops. This governor's expression was solemn as he spoke. The moment he finished his statement, the reporters bombarded him with questions. This seems similar to the bioterrorist attack on Kasumigaseki 2 years ago. Is there any possible connection? What countermeasures do we have in the event that Shibuya is the target of bioterrorism? The governor was visibly disconcerted. If this does turn out to be a bioterrorist attack, we will establish emergency shelters with a large-scale quarantine station at Yoyogi Park. Why does Yoyogi Park sound so familiar? However, there are still many details that remain unknown. The politician was clearly struggling to maintain his composure. Can you comment on the rumors we're hearing that Shibuya might be blockaded off? Don't be ridiculous, the governor barked. What outlet are you with? Are you trying to start a panic when we don't even know all the details? Besides, it wouldn't even be possible to blockade the whole of Shibuya. The press conference continued. The governor and the reporters locked in a belligerent back and forth. Kano left the electronics store and headed for the cafe where Arumi and Shizuo were waiting. He had to tell them both to get far away from Shibuya. The cafe at Lautrec seemed quiet when Kano arrived. Shizuo was sitting alone. Kano scanned the establishment but didn't see Rumi anywhere. One of the staff greeted him. Welcome. Just one, sir? No, I'm meeting someone, actually. Of course, sir. The hostess smiled and then went on her way. Shizuo was glaring at him. Kano walked over to him and bowed deeply. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. I'm Shinya Kano. You look like even more of a knuckle dragger than I thought. Shizuo maintained his appraising stare. Rumi had something she needed to do, so she stepped away for a while, he said after a long moment. Kano sat down across from him. There was a laptop computer open on the table. Laptop computer? Right now, the laptop is in sleep mode. There's nothing on the monitor, but just before Kano came in, Shizuo was browsing an internet forum. He takes his user handle from a nickname for the apples he grows on his own farm, which are pretty little things and nearly as sweet as honey. Fuji apples? The waitress came in to take Kano's order, so he asked for a nice coffee. Ooh, a nice coffee would be nice. What are you using the computer for? Kano asked. I'm on the internet. Shizuo's voice was low and gruff. This cafe has an internet connection. Might as well start with some small talk. So what? Again, Shizuo glared at Kano. No out of character exposition. The words wouldn't come. No, actually, this is no time to be making idle chit-chat. If they got infected with the virus, Rumi and Shizuo might die. Look. Please, you need to leave Shibuya right away. Shizuo's face contorted with confusion. What are you talking about? Why? Kano wasn't sure if he should tell the truth or not. He was strictly prohibited from discussing a case with anyone outside the department. As a former politician himself, Shizuo ought to understand full well the secrecy of an investigation required. Let's talk about the NBA playoffs. Well, from what I saw, supposedly, the Clippers are getting screwed by the refs. But it wasn't like he just up and leave town without a good reason. Please listen, Kano said. There's a risk of a bioterrorist attack. It's very important that you go, though. I'm not at liberty to tell you why. How do you feel about refs firing Nurse? I mean, like they had to do something because they missed the playoffs? Or, yeah, they missed the playoffs, so they had to fire someone. But, I mean, what could they do, right? They got nothing. Listen, there's a risk of a... What's that? What I mean is risk of a... Shizuo pounded his fist on the table. Spit it out! Kano couldn't say it. Didn't matter who was talking to, he couldn't make himself leak the details of an ongoing investigation. Besides, there was no guarantee of a bioterrorist attack that would actually happen. Yeah, Coach as a scapegoat, basically. If they could just find and secure Maria Osawa before she went symptomatic. Does this have something to do with the case you're working? Huh? You're telling me to leave Shibuya. Does that have something to do with your case? Yes, Kano admitted. So why don't you run off with Rumi then? Shizuo's tone was frank. Well, I mean... When Kano didn't have an answer handy, Shizuo let out a single heavy sigh. Is your work important to you? He asked. Kano hesitated. Is it more important than Rumi? Well, again, Shizuo cut Kano off as he waffled over how to answer. Me? I used to put my work before my family. There was no question in my mind that combating society's ills and solving cases was worth any price. And because of that, I did some pretty reckless things. I almost wound up dead more than once. Shizuo paused, a forlorn look in his eyes. My wife did nothing but worry about me. So much that I didn't even realize that she worried herself sick. I was so caught up in my work that I wasn't even there for her when she finally passed away. No. It was all so very absurd of me. The waitress came by and set Kino's iced coffee on the table. It sat there untouched until Shizuo looked at it pointedly. With a tiny nod, Kano brought the cup to his lips. The bittersweet liquid was a balm to his parched throat. I'm talking about parched throat. I told Rumi the same story, Shizuo continued, but I didn't tell her how absurd it was. I only told her that her father only did what he had to do. He took a sip from his glass of water. Rumi, she's very much like her mother used to be. Their personalities are almost identical, and I don't want her to suffer the same way my wife did. Shizuo's fist clenched in his lap. What was it that made you become a detective in the first place? He asked. Well, at first I got the job because I thought it would make Rumi happy. And then I guess also because I thought it would make you like me, sir. It was the truth, but Shizuo simply chuckled. If your goal is just to get me to like you, you may as well give up now. I'm sorry, sir. I can't do that. Are you this stubborn around Rumi? Shizuo grumbled. I love your daughter, sir. I want to keep her safe to make her happy. And why is that? Whenever I think about her, I just feel so amazing. I'm sure that you or anyone can empathize with that. Everyone has someone they want to protect who makes them feel that good. It's an admirable thing, wanting to be a detective and protect the happiness of people. But that doesn't mean you have to ignore your own happiness in the process. What you say may be true, sir. Earlier today, my partner was stabbed, and today was his wife's birthday. Shizuo arched his brow. Is he gonna make it? We're not sure yet. Last I knew, he was in critical condition. This is why I keep saying that the life of a detective is... Shizuo's words trailed off into a lamenting murmur. Even so, Kano was unmoved. Dictum number 1. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect. Ever. What's that? Something that a senior detective that I admire very much said. It's the fundamental guiding principle I've stuck to as a detective. But I was wrong about the real meaning behind it. My partner was stabbed. There are people that I want to rescue. So much has happened, and now I finally understand what those words mean. When you see someone in trouble, you help them. That's not something a good detective does. That's something a good person does. Kano took a good, long look at Shizuo's face. He had surprised himself, finding the words to speak his feelings so clearly, and he wondered what effect it had on the older man. I'm sure that from your perspective as my future father-in-law, my being a detective means that I'm putting my life on the line. That's not entirely true. I can only be myself. It's the kind of person I am. I care about helping people. Even if I were a baker, or a brewer, or a bookseller, I'd still act the same way. You're being ridiculous! A baker and a detective don't assume anywhere near the same risks. It's true. We've already lost the baker. I suppose that's true. Kano fussed with his hair sheepishly. Shizuo grumbled. I think I see what kind of man you are now. He sounded oddly defeated. Which is why now was no time to just futz around. Kano sat up straighter at Shizuo's weighty tone. A detective needs more than just passion. A detective can't solve all his problems with sheer determination alone. But at the same time, he needs more than just the ability to coldly assess a situation. He needs the conviction to stick to a case when it might otherwise seem prudent to give up. There was something new in Shizuo's expression now, and a gleam in his eye that hadn't been there before. Kano almost felt like he was being sermonized to by a senior officer. You got that? You need a cool mind but a fiery spirit. A detective without both is worth nothing. Do you mind if I write that down in my notebook? Look, Shizuo said, sounding suddenly embarrassed. Aren't you in a hurry? Don't you have to get back to your case? And sir, please, I need you and your daughter to leave Shibuya right away. Yeah, I hear ya. I hear ya. Kano conjured up Rumi's face in his mind. There was a chance he might never see her again. He forced the thought away as best he could. By the way, if I may ask, Shizuo said, what was it about Rumi that made you fall in love with her? What? Where is this coming from all of a sudden? Was it her looks? No, it wasn't just that. Kano found himself tongue-tied again. I mean, she is pretty cute. Even if this is my own daughter I'm talking about. Shizuo shocked him by grinning from ear to ear. Well, yes, she sure is, but it's more than just that. She's also very sweet and kind-hearted. Ah, she is, isn't she? Yeah, she really is. For the first time, Kano and Shizuo smiled at one another. You're a man who lets his emotions show on his face, Shizuo said. And for a detective, that's not so bad. Thank you, sir, Kano said. He bowed to Shizuo as he stood up from his seat. Never lose sight of what you're supposed to protect, huh? I like that. Wise words indeed. Kano turned to look back, then bowed deeply to Shizuo one last time. The ability to coldly assess a situation. Kano knew what he needed to do. There was one thing that nagged him, no matter how hard he thought about it, and it still didn't add up. Why would Tatno let Al-Karawan free? He needed to go back to the precinct and get the truth from Al-Karawan firsthand. As he walked along, he considered what he did know about the facts of the case. What sort of plan had Alphard put into motion here? It seemed that Tanaka and Osawa held the keys to understanding it. There had been relay handoffs of the phony attaché case, a relay that Tanaka had been complicit in. Then there was Hitomi missing, carrying the antiviral. Osawa confirmed that himself. Kano was starting to form a vague picture of what Alphard was up to. If the mastermind's goal was to acquire the antiviral, then obtaining the cooperation of Osawa and Tanaka was vital to that plan. After all, their fingerprint verification was required to physically access the drug. In order to overcome that hurdle, Alphard had presumably managed to win over Tanaka somehow, and then kidnapped Maria Osawa to provide leverage against her father. No doubt that was how they got Hitomi to take the antiviral with her to Hachiko. While the police were distracted by the following attaché case, Alphard would then take the antiviral from Hitomi. That was the general plan, as far as Kano could surmise. Just then, a call from Kuze came in over the wireless. We've identified the body found inside the blown-up minivan. Kano's hand tingled as he gripped the wireless. It's Alcar 1. Mamoru Tanaka? What? Male, 40 years old. An employee of Okoshi Pharmaceutical. Positive ID was obtained from the subject's personal belongings. What? Tanaka was dead. It would now be almost impossible to access the antiviral drug in the laboratory. At this point, the only antiviral they had any chance of obtaining was whatever Hitomi was carrying. Kano thought back to what Stanley had said earlier. Even if we get Maria to safety, the mastermind is in possession of the UA virus. If they want to, they can unleash a bioterrorist attack on Shibuya at any time. To put it bluntly, the lives of every man, woman, and child in this city are in their hands. No. A chill ran down Kano's spine. If someone did release the UA virus, there would be no way to stop it from spreading. If Alphard really was planning a bioterror attack, Shibuya would well and truly become the city of the dead. He couldn't help but feel the whole department was playing right into Alphard's hands. Kano staggered, physically stricken by the realization of how terrifying a foe they were up against. To be continued. Well, alright, that'll be it for Shibuya Scramble for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget, we've got another stream in 2.5 hours. We're gonna be finishing River City Girls 2. So tune into that if you're interested. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.